Here we are again. Welcome to practice, where we're concluding our work working with the Yoga Sutras, the text that we've been using to inspire our asana practice. Now, the sutras have provided more meaning and purpose of what we're actually doing on the mat, creating a ritual. This ritual of practice becomes a sacred invitation to begin again, because we as humans, we suffer from the disease of forgetfulness. We forget the tools of practice, we forget the truth of impermanence, and we forget the essence of what we truly are, pure consciousness. And we start to recognize that our serenity, our peace, our tranquility, our equanimity is a remission on a daily basis, contingent upon our devotion to practice. So yoga becomes a ritual, and so we begin again. So welcome. Now, I wanted to conclude this series of working with the Yoga Sutras by actually going to the beginning. So the first Yoga Sutra states, Atha yoga anushasanam. Now the instruction of yoga begins. That first word, Atha, means now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but now. And it is a powerful invitation, a threshold we enter and cross each time we step onto the mat. Each time we receive a conscious breath in. Each time we return to ourselves. This single word, Atha, holds within it an entire philosophy. It reminds us that yoga is not something that we are preparing for, waiting for, or hope to be ready for someday. It is already here. It is always accessible, always waiting for us to step into the presence. Every inhale, we arrive. Every exhale, we let go. And we return again and again. We return to the immediacy of now, now, now. And Atha is a calling to awaken. Atha is a moment we remember. Atha is an invitation to step into the full enlivenedness of this moment. Now, yoga begins. Now, now. So our point of practice, the path of yoga, is a clearing of the lens of our perception. Remembering the work that we did with the koshas. Koshas meaning the sheaths, and we have 5 sheaths that cover our soul, our Atman, and pure consciousness lights that soul. And remember how I likened it to lampshades. So the light bulb being your Atman, the light, pure consciousness, and what we're trying to do is create transparency on those lampshades. And Hatha yogis, we become really concerned with the first 3 sheaths. So the first 3 lampshades, the physical, the energetic, and the mental. And, you know, life is noisy, life becomes challenging, and there's certain things that happen on those sheaths. And so our practice on a daily basis, this ritual of practice, gets us to interface, take responsibility and accountability for what gets stuck on there, and how do we effectively clear these layers. Now, with confidence and authority, Patañjali offers a very practical system for understanding the body, energy, and mind, and also understanding the self and the nature of consciousness itself. The path of yoga is not about moving the body, it's about clearing the lens of perception so we can see reality as it is, not just this distorted reality that is made by our conditioning, our biases, our opinions, our core false beliefs, our impressions, our fears, our attachments, our aversions, etc. So our serenity, our sanity, our peace, our tranquility is a remission on a daily basis. We return again and again. This ritual of practice that creates a belonging to our bodies, our energy, our mind, our life. But there is this way in which it creates more meaning and purpose. Now you may ask, what is the goal of this path? The second Yoga Sutra. Yoga, citta, vṛtti, nirodhaḥ. Yoga is the stilling of the fluctuations of the mind. When the mind is still, we can actually see clearly. We experience life not through the veil of our thoughts, emotions, memories, biases, resentments, grudges, emotions, ego narratives, but directly as it is. And in this profound clarity, the ultimate purpose of yoga is revealed. Self-realization that leads us to kaivalya, total liberation or freedom. Now, the word yoga is defined or translated as union, yoki. We all probably have heard that. It's a merging of the self with the infinite. But yoga also means separation, the ability to step back and rest in that benign awareness that is effortlessly perceiving without doing, and disentangle ourselves from the illusion, from false identities and labels and roles and opinions, etc., and even disentangle ourselves from the causes of suffering. So yoga is the practice of refining both union and separation. We unite ourselves with the deepest truth. We separate from the illusion, conditioning, and suffering. And this is why we practice, is to remember, to return, to begin again and again and again, reminding us of the truth of reality, of abiding in consciousness, yet awake to the enlivenedness of our own being. So yoga becomes this art and science of disciplining the body, energy, and mind. And it is a mastery of discipline, of presence, of stillness. Citta, vṛtti, nirodhaḥ, mental stillness. When we practice, we're quietening the thoughts, the mind noise, clearing the mind in which we are not disturbed by the mind and we see through the lens clearly. We work with asana, and we try to create kaya nirodhaḥ, physical stillness, the settling of the body. So we're not disturbed by the body, and we can open to this ability to rest deeply in this kind of content space within this physical form. And then there's prana nirodhaḥ, energetic stillness. So as we refine our breath through pranayama and conscious breathing, we still our life force prana, and that deep inner peace that follows that stillness creates a clarity in which we can see into the truth, the reality. Now, stillness is not passivity. It is not withdrawing from life. It is the cultivation of deep awareness. And through the practice of yoga, we express this art of stillness within our whole being in the here and now. And Hatha yogis figured out, well, if we create a lot of activity on the level of the body, energy, and mind, by the end of our practice, we can experience stillness. That we do so much in our practice that we can rest in non-doing. That we create so much effort that we can abide effortlessly in consciousness, yet still awake to our enlivenedness of our own being. So no matter what we face on this journey, all the challenges, all the difficulty, all the obstructions, a nod from last week's in Sutra 130, those 9 obstacles we're going to face, dullness, apathy, discontentment, carelessness, procrastination, distraction, instability, lack of concentration, we're all going to experience that when we get on our practice at some point. And we start to notice the symptoms of suffering, Sutra 131, negative thinking, emotional distress, instability in the body, disturbances in the breath, in the mind. We learned as through practice of repetition is how we learn, that each obstacle becomes an opportunity. And through the practice of Pratipakshabhavana, Sutra 233, cultivating the opposite, we transform those obstacles into our strengths, that we shift our self-doubt into trust in our own belief in ourselves, that quiet confidence, that we turned our distraction into full embodied presence, that we really embraced our sadness, our grief into quiet joy, and we bravely faced our fear and turned it into enduring love. That our practice is a returning back home, where we can meet ourselves with more compassion, less judgment. That we remember that by making conscious choices, karma, choice, action, karma, we drop into that loving awareness, and that we can actually become more skillful in our practice, in our life, by making conscious choices that aligns to what matters to us most. What do we care about? What is that deep longing? What is that soul's calling in this lifetime, that dharma, that purpose? And we can skillfully move forward in our lives to find lasting fulfillment, deep contentment within ourselves, and have the ability to free ourselves from suffering. And so we return to Atha now. With each breath, we have an opportunity to begin again. With each moment, we can choose to return to our practice, to remember what is true, to see clearly. Yoga is not something that we achieve. It is something that we live. And so as we close this journey working through the sutras, let us not see this as an ending, but a continuation. We carry this wisdom forward. We practice with more joy. We fall back in love with what we are experiencing in practice. And we hold space for ourselves with more empathy, compassion, tenderness, and kindness. That we attend the gentle, tender parts of ourselves and reclaim our wholeness and provide more forgiveness and kindness to those wounds, those hurts. And we become more fully present to this extraordinary, fleeting, sacred moment. Because the path of yoga is not in the past. It is not in the future. It is now. Now. Now yoga begins. So join me in practice as we explore this concept. And yeah, I'm really excited. Here we are again. Now begins the instruction of yoga.